we should know that the top is parallel to the bottom. Okay, that's why they each have one triangle. That has already been told to you. You should already know that. We also should know that the left is going to be parallel to the right. That's why each one of those is going to have two triangles. Okay, so they are both parallel. Top is parallel to the bottom, left is parallel to the right.
Why won't the two, like, both the top and the bottom, why don't they have rectangles?
Why don't they have what?
Have two rectangles, how you got sides?
Well, because if I have the same amount on every one of them, that means they are all parallel. Only the ones that are parallel have the same marks. So top and bottom have to have the same marks, and left and right have to have the same marks. Otherwise, they're all going to be parallel. And left and right can't be parallel top and bottom. So that's why top and bottom have to have one set of marks, and left and right have to have a different set. Okay, they're also what? They're not only parallel, but they're also what? The same. So they're congruent. Okay? So they're not only parallel, but they're also equal to each other. So that means this side is going to be equal to this side. Okay? As well as left and right are equal to each other. So that's like some of the questions that you had on the quiz where they expected you to know if the top was 7, then you had to know the bottom was also 7. Because they are equal to each other. That is something you should already know. So I'm going to go ahead and write this in here where it says opposite sides. So opposite sides are both what? Opposite sides are both parallel and equal. And I just showed that. So they are both parallel and equal. So that's the first thing you need to remember. So that they are both parallel and equal. So top and bottom are equal and left and right are equal. Now, let's go to the second one. So go ahead and draw another parallelogram like this one. So as you'll notice, I've drawn a little line to separate. So I'm going to draw another parallelogram. I'm just making sure everybody's got this copied. So I'm going to draw another parallelogram. So now, in this one we're going to look at angles. So what do we remember about angles? We're talking about opposite angles. What do we remember about opposite angles? They're congruent. So if I know this angle, I automatically know this angle. So if this angle is 45 degrees, then this angle is also 45 degrees. And again, you have questions like this on your quiz. Opposite angles are congruent. So those two would be equal, but I also know that these two are equal. So if this one is 135, this one is also 135. So opposite angles are congruent. So I'm going to write that in here at the bottom. So you've got to remember, opposite angles are equal. So if they say one is 30, the other one has to be 30. They can't tell you that one is 30 and the other one is 25. They have to be the same number. So we know opposite sides are equal. We know that opposite angles are equal. So now I'm going to draw another one. So opposite angles are equal. So now I've got to draw one more parallelogram. So is there anybody still copying this? Do we need a pencil back there? He needs a pencil? So that we don't have to share. You got anyone? Okay. So in your next parallelogram, there you go. He's already got one. Thank you. So opposite angles are equal. So I'm going to slide this one over just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and draw my next one. So I've got another parallelogram. Now, if I know that opposite angles are equal, what do I know about the angles on the same side? They equal 180. They're going to add to equal 180. So if I know that this is x, and I know that this is 75, then according to what I know that I should be adding these two. Anything on the same side is going to add to equal 180 degrees. I've told you that numerous times before. So if they are on the same side, both on the left or both on the right, then they are going to add to equal 180. And there are also some on your quiz where there were 3 angles. So if there are 3 angles on the left or 3 on the right, then they've all got to add to equal 180. So in this case, and I'm going to say angles on the same side I'm going to put both on the left or both on the right. So somebody's going to say, well, what about the bottom? If they're both on the bottom or both on the top, that's not what I mean. If they are both on the left or both on the right, they add to equal 180. Okay, so that's what it's telling me. The angles on the same side, whether it's 2 angles, 3 angles, it doesn't matter. If they're all on the same side, then they're going to have to add to equal 180. And I've got one more before we do a couple of examples. So draw one more parallelogram, but this time draw both sets of diagonals. So this time we want the diagonals inside. So this time draw one more parallelogram with the diagonals inside. And let me refresh your memory on those. Okay, is there anybody still copying this one before I slide it over? Okay, we got one or two. Make sure that you've already got another parallelogram drawn with both sets of diagonals. Okay, finished? Okay, so I'm going to have to go now down to the next line because I don't have any more room on that line. So I'm going to have to do my next one down here. So I've got my next one here. Now I said draw both diagonals. So I want both sets of diagonals in here. Now, you will notice that I colored these in different colors. Now, what happens to your diagonals? When you have one diagonal, and then you draw the second diagonal, what does that diagonal do to your first one? It does what? Somebody said it. Cuts it in half. So if I draw this orange one, then I turn around and draw the pink one, this pink one is going to cut this orange one in half. And then vice versa. The pink one cuts the orange one in half, the orange one cuts the pink one in half. So each one gets cut in half. So this orange one now has 2 equal pieces, and the pink one now has 2 equal pieces. So this piece is now equal to this piece, and this piece is now equal to this piece. Okay? They are now equal to each other.
Do we need the pins for these?
Huh?
Do we need the pins for these, or?
You don't have to, it just depends. If you want them, you can have them.
No, I was just asking.
You don't necessarily have to. I just did it to make sure you could see the difference. Now, that means if this half of the pink line is 9, then this half of the pink line is also 9. That's what it means. It cuts it into 2 equal pieces. So this is 9 and this is 9. One of them can't be 9 and the other one can't be 11. They've got to be the same exact measure. Same thing happens to the orange. If this side is 12, this side is also 12. They have to be the exact same measures on both pieces of the diagonal.
So you saying like both of the lines, like each one line has equal numbers and the other one has equal numbers?
Yes. I did not say that the pink is equal to the orange, but I'm saying that each piece of the pink is equal and each piece of the orange is equal. Okay? So make sure you understand the difference. Okay? So now, what that means, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to say each diagonal is cut in half by the other diagonal. So each diagonal is cut in half by the other diagonal. And it makes two equal pieces. So each diagonal is cut in half by the other diagonal, and it makes two equal pieces. So each diagonal is cut in half by the other diagonal, and it makes two equal pieces. So each diagonal is cut in half by the other diagonal, and it makes two equal pieces. One other thing I'm going to put down here, and I'm going to put a star here beside it, because some of you can't remember this, is that two halves make what? Make a whole. You've got to remember that. Two halves make a whole. So that means each piece of the diagonal, fix it back. I'll have to hold it, I guess. Each piece of the diagonal will add together to make the whole diagonal. And again, some of you can't seem to remember that. We've talked about it numerous times. Two halves make a whole. Okay. So anybody still copying? Otherwise, we're going to do a couple of examples. So each diagonal is cut in half by the other diagonal, and it makes two equal pieces. That's why two halves make a whole. Okay, so I'm going to draw a couple of examples. Now, like I said, several of these questions in iExcel are simple yes and no questions. If you know most of this that I've gone over, you should be fine. So, if I were to draw a parallelogram, and all you have on this parallelogram is this. That's all I give you in iExcel. Like I said, I'm giving you some examples out of iExcel. And they simply say, is this a parallelogram, yes or no? You got to know, based on what I've already taught you, if this is going to be a parallelogram. So what are they actually telling us? They're not telling us anything? Well, I think they're telling us that these two are equal to each other. So, would that make this a parallelogram? Yes, no, maybe, I don't know. Yes. Yes, it would. Because remember, what did we just get through saying? That the two diagonals are going to cut the other one in half. So this diagonal is cutting this one in half. So yes, that is an example of a parallelogram. So again, all you got to do is look at some of these and you got to know. Nothing to work out. Okay, what if you get another one? And all you get is this. This is all they tell you in the second problem.
No,
Why?
because those two pieces are supposed to be congruent, but that one's 89 and that one's 86.
Okay, we said one of the first things was they have to be parallel and equal. These two are parallel, but they are not equal. So they're supposed to be both 96 or both supposed to be 89. They can't be different. So that's going to be a no. No, it is not a parallelogram because they can't have different numbers. So the sides have to be exactly the same number. Okay? So what if I give you this one? And I tell you that this is 58 degrees, this is 122 degrees, and this is 58 degrees. Is that one going to be a yes or a no? Now, I know 3 out of the 4 angles, so what's my assumption about the fourth one?
It's 126.
It's also 122. So I know these two are equal, so I'm going to assume that these two are equal, but what else could I do? Remember, the 2 on the side, do these two add to equal 180? If the 2 on the side, same side, if you can add those, and if they equal 180, it's also going to be a parallelogram. So last time I checked, 122 and 58 add to equal 180. So that is a yes.
What about the other angle though? Like you was just gonna leave it by itself?
Well, they didn't tell you that. I could assume it's supposed to be 122, but I don't know that for sure. But what I can use is the fact that 122 plus 58 does equal 180.
So if they ever gives me one like that, then I have to add like.
Yes. There should be something that you can do. Okay? Because a lot of times just guessing is not going to be good enough. Using something that I can prove is what I need.
Cause it was, I think it was the last Excel assignment or something. I think they gave me one like that, and then I just couldn't figure out what to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could guess, but guessing is not going to get me anywhere. But I can prove that these two add to be 188. That's what I need. Okay. So, you kind of understand what they're doing here. Okay, on the yes and no. Now, I could do plenty more, but that's what they're doing, using what you already know. Now, let's look at one with something you're actually going to have to do. Because there are some that you are going to have to actually solve. You're not going to get away from solving. But they are not difficult. So let's say here's my parallelogram. I've got F, G, H, and I. I've got my two diagonals. So go ahead and draw those. And in the middle, where they meet, is letter J. Okay? Now this is what I know. Now I also know that FJ is 3Y, and I know that HJ is Y plus 14. So of course I'm supposed to find Y. So they've given me the picture, they've told me what the pieces are, I need to be able to solve it. It's very similar to something you had on the quiz. So FJ is 3Y. So FJ is right here. So this piece right here is 3Y. So from here to here, that half the piece of the diagonal right here is 3Y. Now HJ is this piece of the diagonal, this half. So this half is Y plus 14. Y plus 14. Now what do I know about the two pieces of the diagonal? This piece is what to this piece? Equal. So all you gotta do is set those two equal to each other. So all you have to do to solve it is to say 3Y equals Y plus 14 and solve it. That's all you gotta do. Remember, this is 1. So I'm gonna move my 1Y. So I'll subtract 1. So 3 minus 1 is now 2Y. So 2Y equals 14. So divide by 2. So then Y is going to equal 7. So I'm still having to use what I know. So I've got to know that entire list of things that I gave you. Same exact stuff that you had to use on the quiz. So, any questions? So now I believe you are going to be doing N.7 I want to go to 6. N.7 in IXL. I will assign it. It has not been assigned yet. So whatever the newest one that pops up in your Google Classroom will be the one that you need to do. And I will go assign it in just a few minutes once everybody leaves, because it should be